It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Started as a kid with a team to believe in. Every win and loss left my heart still beating. Year after year through the rain and the sun, learning that faith is what makes us strong.
The kick is up, and the kick is good afternoon, and welcome back to the Superfan Diaries. I'm your host, J.R. Green, recording from our studios on Broadway in downtown Nash, Vegas, bringing you the biggest sports, the biggest moments, and the biggest fans, celebrating passionate sports figures and their unique stories. Yes, legends. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share your own game day traditions or stories online. Today, we're going to be doing something very special, our first ever podcast and show in front of 1,000 guests. It's a great honor as an Eagle Scout myself to have the Superfan Diaries podcast to be taking place live in front of the Middle Tennessee Scouting America annual patron luncheon. Today's guest is someone many of you already know, a former Major League Baseball All-Star and two-time World Series champion, best known for his pivotal role in the Chicago Cubs' historic 2016 championship, which, by the way, stopped the curse of the Billy Goat. Over his 14-year career, in which he played for the Tampa Bay Rays, Oakland Athletics, Kansas City Royals, as well as the Cubbies, he built a reputation for versatility, leadership, and clutch performances. Since retiring, he has founded Champion Forward, a not-for-profit geared toward helping young athletes, parents, and coaches experience sports in a mentally and emotionally healthy way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the legend, Ben Zobrist.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great to see you. Great to see you. Well, listen, Ben, thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to jump right into it because I know that Kevin and the folks have got a very tight timeline, so we're all out of here by 1 o'clock to be respectful of everybody donating and being here today. As I've gotten to know you throughout the years, one of your taglines is about being prepared for pressure. And as we all know here at Scouts, be prepared is our motto. So we live by this every day. I want to give you a two-part question to start this out of the gates. Number one is, how can adults in the room here today with their own careers, how can we be prepared for pressure?
Well, I think the first thing that I think about with adults is it hits you right when you wake up in the morning if you have kids, right? Because they're putting pressure on you immediately to help them with everything they're doing. So the preparation, I think, for most parents is realizing that it is happening for you too. I mean, I think a lot of times we think a lot about the people that we're around and the people that we're trying to help manage their stuff. And one of the things we talk about a lot in our program is if you're not doing your own work, if I'm not doing my own work, then how can I expect my kids to do it? And what I mean by work and practice, when we talk about that, is my internal work. I mean, externally we all have things to do. We all have jobs. We all have things that we're expected to be meeting the demands to every day on a physical realm. But I think the mental and emotional side of things, which is part of why my story is what it is. I did a lot of things on an athletic level, physically, that people saw and admired, and I had some work to do internally. And so that work, I really didn't understand the depth and need in that work until I was in the latter part of my career, and particularly through the championships I was involved in. So it's definitely something I say to parents: are you doing your own work? Adults, are you looking inside? Are you challenging your own internal practice just as much as you're challenging yourself externally?
Well, and the second part of that question is, you just mentioned right out of the gates, we have children that wake us up in the morning, helping us to make sure we're prepared. Any nuggets you can give related to children? Because I think through, who knows, some of the parents in here may be parents, future Olympian or Major League Baseball player. Any nuggets that we can begin to help coach our children on? Yeah,
so, and look, let me just say at the outset of saying this, I mean, I was lecturing my kids as they're in the car on the way to school today, okay? So I am a work in progress, just like everybody else. And lectures, there's a time and a place for it, but I think oftentimes if I'm not regulating myself and checking where my heart and my emotions are in that moment, it's gonna come out sideways. And this generation, what worked for us for me when I was coached as an athlete, I was totally fine getting yelled at and challenged. in that way. I was like, oh, okay, that just motivated me to keep going. This generation is not motivated that way. They are motivated by first building a level of trust and helping them feel like they're a part of the thing going on, a part of the team, and everybody's got their role. Once they feel like their role is set and they feel confident in their role, then there's gentle reminders here and there. Look, like I said, I am not perfect at this, and we all struggle because it's like, hey, let's go. Time to pick it up. You know, let's move a little quicker. But what we're learning about this generation is resilience is very challenging for them because, let's remind ourselves that they are dealing with far more than we were dealing with at that age. I didn't have a cell phone in my hand in high school. I didn't have comparison of my statistics from the time I was 8 years old on.
Right.
I mean, the things they're dealing with if they have social media or any of that, it creates far greater mental and emotional challenges than we're aware of. And so they're still trying to survive in high school just like everybody is, you know, and not be a social misfit, right? It's difficult. So with the difficulties and the challenges, they need new tools, which is why I believe emotional intelligence is really the next frontier in performance for them. Because they're going to have to learn to manage and regulate themselves better with more coming at them than we ever did, right? So if I just learned this stuff at the age of 38 or 36, 37, 38, at the end of my career, and it wasn't necessarily available at all at the highest level of sport, then I got to believe young kids are still like coaches. It's something we all need to be introduced to.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, driving back into performance, being prepared, as you can see here, I've got two incredible hats here, the Cubbies and the Royals, and of course my big orange tux hat, self-promotion there. But the big thing is clutch. One of the pieces that you've talked about is being prepared, but then there's also being clutch. And if we think about a quote from Jack Nicklaus, concentration is a fine antidote to anxiety. So we think about clutch. You were not only clutch once, but twice with two different World Series back to back. What's the difference between being prepared and then being clutch?
Well, I think when you're prepared, obviously you know what's coming. You're looking for what the opposition is throwing at you. So obviously, I know with scouts, they have to be prepared for a lot of different things, and that's part of the badges that they're earning. It sounds like is they're being challenged in a lot of different ways, and they learn through those challenges on what to do. Like young Connor, who amazing kid, right? He knew what to do because he was prepared ahead of time. There is that kind of preparation where you just know, okay, if this situation happens, this is what I'm going to do. So every great athlete, they already are studying and they know what could happen. But what happens in the moment, the difference between that and actually being clutch is learning that, okay, what is my experience in this very moment? So when my experience is different than I thought it might be, I know what the opposition is going to give me and I know what my plan is if the opposition does that. But if at that same very moment, my experience is, oh, somebody just screamed something at me that I got to block out. Oh, the umpire just called a bad pitch on me. Oh, my hand doesn't feel right as my swing is coming through the zone. There's all these internal distractions and emotions that are taking place. And so what I tell young people, if you want to be clutch in the moment, is you have to focus on finite details. It's silencing certain things and amplifying others. So when you amplify the right finite detail in the moment of being clutch, then all the other things that could distract you and take you away, they don't. You can't even listen to them because you're so focused on the finite detail. Whereas if you're focused on what that person just said to you, what the umpire just did, everything externally that isn't going your way in that moment, you will lose track of that focus that you need. And so whatever the highlight that everybody sees, I didn't hear anything. All I saw was the spin of the ball. All I thought about was my plan and when the ball did this is what I was going to do. And I forgot about everything else that was going on in that moment.
Well, if we think about some of the great work you've done, I'd like to have an opportunity for everybody to hear more about Champion Forward. This is a program that Ben started that supports future athletes and building ambassador programs. Tell us why you started it and what's it doing for the sports community and for the non-sports community.
Well, when I was going through these moments on the athletic field, like I said, I was prepared to do that. I did that. I focused well at the time. We had a lot of success. What I was not prepared for and what they did not teach us and what they don't teach young people is what do you do when you just leveled up and you just succeeded, that you did the thing that you never thought you'd be able to do, or maybe you did, you dreamed about it, and then you got there. Well, if that's your Mount Everest, what do we know about Everest? You can't breathe at the top of it. I think we talked about this when we've had breakfast together. It's not a place you can live at that level of success. So what do you do to come back down off the mountain and get to a manageable place? And how do you now manage the fact that now all of a sudden the expectations are higher? Now people expect you to do more. And that's one of the difficult things about success and failure. So failure sometimes feels like an identifier of, oh, well, they failed at this, they failed at that. That doesn't define you, but also the success doesn't as well. So when at Champion Forward, one of my goals, as I experienced success and failure, and the ups and the downs and the emotional challenges with that, I went into depression. And that depression was so difficult that I finally started going to therapy. I didn't realize how much I needed it. So I'm a huge advocate of like what Refuge does and what you guys do. Like we have needs. There are professionals that are around and ready to take care of us in those moments. But what can we do before that? How can we help parents, athletes, coaches start to implement just a healthy level of emotional intelligence and awareness before they get to the point where they were where I was? And so we wanted to develop a program that feels a little bit more like it's just conversations we're having that are either prior to the game or after the game that help implement some of this emotional intelligence so that you can go do your heroic move on the field for your team, because you gotta sometimes block out the emotions to go produce and execute. Right. And any leader will tell you, there are times where you have to kind of like put your feelings aside so that you can lead other people and help them manage theirs, right? But that's your hero mode. That's what I say. That's your heroic role that you have to do in the moment. How do you then go return to being a human right after that? How do you go settle in and go, you know what, that was pretty traumatic for me, whatever the experience was. I think I need to talk to somebody about that. So we're teaching them to go jump into that, push yourself, and be the hero that you want to be. But now how do we step back and have a conversation about how that felt when you made the big error that felt like it cost the team the game, or you hit the home run that won the game? Does that change who you are? How do we now return to, hey, we're complicated human beings, and we might have had a really rough morning and then we had a great afternoon. So sometimes we really need somebody to listen. And ultimately what we know in mental health is the biggest antidote to anything mental or emotional challenges that people are dealing with is quality human connection.
Yep.
So if we can have a healthy connection with ourselves, with the people that we love the most, and with our faith in God, then we have a much, much better chance of dealing with the challenges that come our way and becoming more resilient.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
K-pop demon hunters Saja Boy's breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Started as a kid with a team to believe in. Every win and loss left my heart still beating.
Thank you for sharing all this with us, Ben. And I think the other big piece of that is you just touched on it right there, which is the peak. So you've got folks right now, if you're watching the Olympics, everyone knows Jack Hughes. Not Jack Hughes Jr., we all know you too as well. Fantastic work. But Jack Hughes lost all his teeth, got the final goal, men win the Olympic gold, and I mean, it was huge. That's a peak. But just like you said, it's Mount Everest. It comes down, and you have to be normal. How, in terms of steps, or do you manage the valley? Obviously, mental health is one piece of, seeking therapy, but what are some other steps of when you're in the valley? 14 years, you played in the majors, and you got 2 World Series champions, which is an anomaly. But there's a lot of valleys there.
Yeah. I think you have to prepare for that because there are valleys all along the way, right? And so one of the things we try to help athletes deal with is when you fail, and because you will. I always want to challenge younger athletes, or even if you feel like you're beyond this, stepping into roles where you feel weak, you feel more vulnerable, you feel like you aren't the best at this, picking up a new hobby at an adult's age at 44, picking up a new hobby is like, I don't want to do that now because it makes me uncomfortable. I feel like I look dumb when I do it, but it's those types of things when kids see us challenging ourselves to grow, they feel like, oh, it's okay to fail. It's okay to not be great at something. And I think that is one of the things that I would tell somebody as a young person. Try multiple things. If you're a star in one thing, do something where you're not the star. Do something where you're a different part of the team, where you're having to, mop up the floor at the end of the experience. I mean, the bottom line is, like, the best hit I ever had as a player is probably, if you look at the overall number of hits I had in my career, one of the weakest hits I've had. Like, it was an opposite field ground ball, and it's like, oh my goodness, like that moment. And the reason is because I was actually leaning into a weakness in that moment. So sometimes we think, well, if I'm not in my strength, if I'm not stepping into a place that feels like I feel confident, I'm not going to be able to really help people. And that's really not true. Actually, we help people more sometimes when we step into our weakness. And I've found that being vulnerable about my own mental health story has given other people the confidence to step up and be like, oh, it's normal to feel that way. You can still perform at a high level and struggle. Yes, you can. It's kind of normal nowadays. And I think we not only need to be able to talk about it, but we need to be able to say, yeah, I can struggle today, and tomorrow could be amazing.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to jump into this because I don't want to mess it up. And for everybody in the room that may not know all the details of Ben Zobrist, you've gotten this question possibly 1 million times over the past 10 years. So I'm going to try to phrase it a little differently today. As we jump back to 2016, you were part of a team that is now immortalized in American sports. The game is tied 10-10, and boom! You hit the ball that cemented the victory, ending the curse of the Billy Goat for the Chicago Cubbies. While this was absolutely a super peak, super clutch, and a hit that helped the Pope himself know your name, which is true, we can all assume how you felt. We really can. But is there anything small or large you would change about that moment in time? Maybe a few moments before it or days after it, looking back 10 years.
You know what? The question I've been asked more than anything is what was said in the locker room by the team.
PG, please, PG.
Yeah, and
I've got children present.
I can't say it, but I wish I had basically set up a camera or a recording device or something, because there was Jason Hayward, one of our teammates, spoke, and some other guys spoke, and it's like that switch in a team environment where the confidence is not that great, and then all of a sudden a couple people say things, and it's just like the way you feel as a team totally flips and changes. It's like every great sports movie has that moment where the coach stands up and has the speech or the star player or something like that. And that was a real life moment where I experienced it. And I'm like, I wish I had every word. I wish every word that was said.
You've got those glasses now. If you
I
had
know,
those glasses, you could
if
have
the meta
recorded
glasses would have been around, I could have done it maybe. Yeah, but that's the one thing. It was very, very special. And to, everybody's like, well, what did he say? Well, to sum that up quickly, he basically said, guys, you can take everything that's happening outside of this room right now. And we knew there was millions of people watching. You rarely get a moment during a game when you can pause everything and everybody stops and there's just, we're in waiting mode. And we were in a dungeon and there was no coaches and players. And it was literally like, guys, what everybody thinks outside of this room does not matter. What we believe in this room is what matters. And so it was like, it's 0-0. Whatever happened in the game is in the past. How are we going to move forward and have each other's backs and go out there and do what hasn't been done for 108 years, right?
Incredible.
And so it was just this popcorn of conversation around the room. And that's why I say I wish I had a recording device, but it was a beautiful moment.
Are any Cubs fans here today? I mean, are there any Cubs? Let's get a round of applause just for that moment, guys. And that was the only person on the planet Earth that actually thought the Cubbies would ever win the World Series was Back to the Future. And I think it was Back to the Future number 2.
Yeah, they believed it.
They had it in there. All right, I want to jump to another topic for the sports fans in the room. Probably one of the biggest issues. I've heard it on Superfan Diaries. Every show on ESPN has got it right now, which is all about in NIL. And you're right now in the middle of it, getting to help in coaching and other pieces with college athletes. How do you feel NIL is going to impact baseball, specifically looking at the minor league game? Because you've taught me there's more than 3. There's multiple levels of process of pro teams before you actually get to the majors. Yeah. How is NIL, do you think, going to impact Major League Baseball?
I think the way that it's already impacting baseball is that players are professionals before they become a, quote, professional. And what I mean by that is they have their own coaches for every part of their game. And so by the time they get into organizational baseball, the organizations want to put their stamp on them. They put coaches all around you. They put trainers all around you. There's this clash between what the player believes that they should be based on their image and based on what their desire is for their career and their agent and all these people involved, and what the organization wants. So there has to be this merging, this mesh of what is the team actually needing, what are they asking you to do, and what are you willing to do? And so I think for players, that versatility piece and that piece of where the team needs to come first is more difficult for a player to understand now because it's becoming more individualized at an earlier age. For me, it was like team, 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 and then maybe in the major leagues, eventually people started having like brands.
Yep.
Now it's like they got a brand at 18 years old, these prospects, and that makes it more difficult for them to understand you're going to have to sacrifice some of that for the sake of the team winning. Like that is a challenge for younger athletes now. And it's a challenge because you're comparing, well, I had a better year than that person and they got more NIL money than me.
Yep.
And it's like, you can't do that. If you really want to win, then you got to accept, if you want to win with that team and you want to be coached by that staff, you got to accept what they are offering you. And once you accept that, you have to be willing to move, willing to be versatile and do what they're asking you to do. And that's the scouting stuff, right?
No, that is exactly right. So we're going to get to another fun segment of the show here right before we end up closing for the day, which is to drive into Desert Fan Island. So we're going to have Ben pretend he's in Wrigley Field on an island by himself. You get 5 things: 1 movie, 1 musical talent, 1 food, 1 beverage, and 1 past or current player in the Major League Baseballs to hang out with.
Okay.
Number 1 movie you're going to watch on the Jumbotron at Wrigley Field for a lot of times.
Old school baseball, The Natural, for anybody that's seen it.
Absolutely.
It's my favorite.
Absolutely.
Robert Redford.
Great movie. All right, 1 musical talent.
This is where I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I'm going to say musical act, Hamilton the musical. I am a huge history guy. Love the Hamilton musical. It's my favorite ever. And so if I could watch that, like they do this concert series at Wrigley.
It's great. I love it.
Which is amazing. They have amazing bands and stuff. But if I could just see the Hamilton musical, I'd do that at Wrigley.
Money. All right, 1 food. 1 food.
It's got to be a Chicago bratwurst.
There you go. All right, 1 beverage.
I'm just a basic Coca-Cola guy, to be honest. Maybe add a little popping boba in there for those people that love that stuff now.
Coke Zero, Coke Regular.
I do both.
Have you ever tried Pepsi? Can you tell the difference?
Oh, don't.
I can tell the difference.
I can tell the difference, but I'm a Coke guy.
Yeah. All right, Coke. Final question. 1 past or current Major League Baseball player, anyone in history. You get to watch all these wonderful Hamilton shows. You get to hear and get to see your movie, Natural.
I think it's got to be the great Bambino, Babe Ruth, because he was like this guy he supposedly was the guy that pointed at center field at Wrigley Field and called his shot in the World Series. So I would want to hear about that while we're watching the movie.
I love it. I have one last point. I know I've got like 60 seconds here. I always run these shows right up to the last moment. I had an opportunity to have a discussion and sit down to lunch with John Sherman, the owner of the Kansas City Royals once. And he threw out your name as one of the reasons they won in 2015. He didn't have to do that. The reason he did that is you've worked very hard to build a reputation. Can you give any of us, and all of us, especially children in the audience, ways that you have very briefly built such a great reputation to where people would be proud to call you a teammate?
It's very kind, some of the things that have been said on the screen and what y'all are saying about me. The way that I would say is you have to be willing to accept the role that is needed as opposed to the role that you want. That is the most difficult thing to do. And if you can put your ego to the side for the moment to say, this is what's needed right now, even if you think somebody else should be doing it, set it aside, do the role that needs to be done, and realize that that is how you're going to build a reputation as a team player.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Zobrist, thank you so much today.
Thanks for
having you here today. This was outstanding. I loved it. This was great.